How to maintain health to live longer? How to build a unique, honest personal brand in a crowded market? Jendrik Schmidt, aka Mark Maslow, has been an inspiration and a great friend of mine. He's a fitness engineer and one of the leading names in the fitness industry in Germany. CEO of Marathon Fitness, fitness coach, podcast host of Fitness mit M.A.R.K, best-selling author of Looking Good Naked and Looking Good Naked Powerküche. From this episode, you will also learn about getting to know your followers better and launching a product from scratch. And in the end, why do people really want to look good naked? All about this in this conversation with Mark Maslow. Enjoy. Today in Greg Albrecht Podcast, Jendrik Schmidt, aka Mark Maslow. Hello, Jendrik.
Hi, Greg. Great to be here.
I'm so excited to have you because you're one of the smartest people I know, and it's great that I have this opportunity to have you on my podcast finally when I decided to record in English, which opens the door to great people like yourself. Jendrik, maybe in the beginning for people who are confused that I address you as Jendrik, please explain what's the difference between Jendrik Schmidt and Mark Maslow and how did that duality come to life?
Yeah, that's an interesting story because by profession I'm a mechanical engineer. I worked for really nice German company called Lufthansa, which was actually my dream employer. And then about 10 years ago, I decided to make my hobby into a business. So sometimes I call myself also as a fitness engineer because I have an engineering background. And to save my employment, I decided on using an alias, which is Mark Maslow. And actually, I didn't have any idea about marketing then. And when I quit my job, I knew, okay, I created a kind of a brand for myself. So I kept the alias. So most people in the German-speaking fitness niche only know me by my alias.
And what was that hobby that you turned into a profession that replaced your paid and satisfying job at Lufthansa?
Well, when I studied, actually, I started. Oh, well, it was even beforehand. I was a soldier for 2 years, and that's when I discovered that moving, working out is something I really enjoy, and that gives me also kind of I'm looking for the English word. Self-sufficiency, so I can set goals and achieve them. And I think it's kind of a really good blueprint, like fitness, working out, optimizing your health by eating better, caring about sleep and all that stuff is something where you can set goals where most of the variables you can, you can decide for yourself. And so this is something that helped me become successful in other parts of my life and was a big part of my life apart from my job and the education to become an engineer. And it's also something where I coached a lot of people in my friends and so on for several years that always gave me the feedback, okay, if you talk about fitness, then I'm really motivated to do it myself. And that was always something funny for me, but when I decided to create a own business, that was my idea, to start with something I enjoy. And the idea was, if I enjoy what I do for profession, then I don't have to work anymore. And apart from bookkeeping or stuff like that, which I still don't enjoy, that's true for actually most of the things I do in my work life now.
So what does your business look like today? What are the pillars of it? Content-wise and business-wise that constitute Mark Maslow as the well-renowned fitness engineer of Deutschland?
Well, coming from a customer perspective, so what I help them is, I always say I help people to look good naked. So this is, the thing I can deliver or help people with. And I started, and this is still part of my business, by coaching people. now that the business grew over the last 10 years, I don't do a lot of coachings myself anymore because I have so many roles now.
You're too busy.
So there's a lot of things I have to take care of. I just updated our team page on our website, and like the team is like 10 people now or so. So there's a lot of, everybody who listens now knows that like the bigger the team gets, the more other things you have to take care of. If I look back for the first 1 or 2 or 3 years, it was basically me and my assistant. So I could focus on creating content and coaching people. So right now I have 2 other coaches that coach people one-on-one, and this is also important for me to still coach myself. But this is only one part of my business, and another, like a really big part, is publishing. So I publish solutions, helpful content for people who want to get fit, to get in shape. So that's basically articles and the podcast. And I also have a pretty popular newsletter, everything in German language, and most of the content actually is free. I published 2 books who also became bestsellers on the German market with Random House Publishing. So I'm a really good publisher there. But everybody that published a book knows that if you're not like Stephen King or so, this is not base of a business. Podcasts growing a big time. So during the last years, also big part of my business is advertisements, for example, in the podcast. So that's basically an overview.
Za chwilę dalszy ciąg programu, a tymczasem, czy chcesz otrzymywać ode mnie bezpłatnie najciekawsze artykuły, podcasty i narzędzia, które pomogą Ci lepiej zarządzać firmą i własną karierą? Dołącz do 10 000 subskrybentów i zapisz się na gregalbrecht.io/klub, a w każdy piątek otrzymasz na maila garść inspiracji na weekend. Daj się pozytywnie zaskoczyć, a jak Ci się nie spodoba, to wypiszesz się jednym kliknięciem. Zapisz się na gregalbrecht.io/klub. Do zobaczenia w Twojej skrzynce. How does this business perform? What's the scale? What I mean is, in the fitness industry, there are some fitness celebrities that maybe not necessarily are engineers. They do not have certain types of fantastic knowledge sometimes about fitness, but they do beautiful pictures and they're just famous, and this is one type of being a fitness celebrity in a way. You chose a more sophisticated way and I'm very curious, how would you compare the scale of people who go, let's say, this fancy, picturesque type of way in doing their personal brand and fitness, and yourself, where you're more focused on data, interviews, quality, science? How would you compare ratio of the scale that you can deliver by focusing on real, let's say, intrinsic quality?
Actually, I wouldn't say that like other fitness people who publish like nice pictures or motivating content about their workouts and so on as being, it's also like great quality they can deliver, but it's different for me. I go about my strengths. So when I started publishing, it wasn't about like I'm kind of a private person. I don't really enjoy getting so much attention. So this is something if I would, like, for example, publish a picture from my workout or from me having a meal or so this is something I have to really put a lot of energy into it, because normally I don't want to do it. So what I naturally would like to do is like help people by creating helpful content, which is basically the written word. That's actually what I like. Or auditory, like doing interviews, because I would consider myself as being I'm really interested in other people and understand how the body works and so on. And then taking the kind of the role as a teacher to explain how the body functions and what the science says and so on. So I put a lot of time into reading what actually the current science is right now, which is more like the work. I'm a scientist, definitely not, but I'm really interested in science. So I would say I'm more or less focusing more on what I really enjoy doing, which isn't doing these videos or pictures of myself. But it depends also on the customer or the client, you know. Some people want to see those pictures, and so they don't turn to me then, obviously, but to somebody else. And of course, I also do pictures and so on because it's part of the business. But I focus more on the in-depth content, which is also, kind of a good niche because there's not a lot of people who are willing to put in the effort to do that. But on the other hand, I'm not the one putting in the effort to do like a lot of pictures, for example. So I see that more or less on the same level, you know.
So you mean that the amount of people looking for nice pictures is similar to the amount of people who want to read a more in-depth content, for example, the things that you publish?
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I also part of the way I work is not really, I don't really look a lot at what other people do. Also other fitness coaches. I try to find out what people need or what the questions I hear from them. And then I ask myself, okay, considering my strengths, what's the best way to help them? And this is how I work, kind of. And then also, of course, a big part of my business is the technical side. So the website, our own platform, Marathon Fitness, is a really big website. So there's a lot of things to do to keep that running. And on the other hand, SEO is also something I consider because I look at, okay, what are people looking for at Google, and this is also something I think is a very important part of a company to look, what are people Googling, and how can I deliver content that is found.
So how many people consume your content every month?
Okay, that's considering the different platforms. I would say the website is actually I looked up the numbers a few days ago. So it's about 200,000 people a month, like unique visitors at the website. Then there's about the same amount unique listeners from the podcast, and putting all the email lists together. It's about 70 to 80,000 subscribers, but there's obviously overlap. So I don't know. Maybe we can say, I would say the newsletter list is actually a good estimate about the reach. So I would say, since I have different lists for different interests, because I'm positioned very broad by saying, okay, I help people look good naked. So that's a broad positioning. So I would say it's maybe like 50,000 or so.
When does the content become interesting for advertisers? What's your perception, and what were the first moments for you when you decided to commercialize, let advertisers get into your let's say media and communicate to your listeners and readers?
Yeah, that's also interesting because this is nothing I did by myself. So I was approached by the first company that approached me was Audible, and they asked if it would be interesting, to have them as a ad partner. And by that time, I I was a Audible user for 8 years or so. So I love them. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and the platform I use myself since I think 2008 or so is Audible. So that's since then I have a subscription. So I said, okay, of course I use you anyway, and I recommend you anyway. So if you want to give me money for that, why not? And the way like the business works in podcasting is that you look at the numbers of downloads, unique numbers of downloads, and there's an amount normally companies pay for 1,000 listeners, and then you say, okay, in my case right now, one episode reaches 18,000 downloads within a month. So I multiply my 1,000 price by 18, and the price right now is 150 euros. So that's what the companies pay me for placement in one episode. And then over the years it developed that also I have an agency I work with. It's called Online Marketing Rockstars here in Hamburg. They're also based here. And so they ask me, okay, I have this company, for example, health insurance or so, and would you do a placement for them? And this is actually the way I work, because this is something I don't really want to do, is to do sales. And the other thing is that I only advertise for products that I really like. So I would say like 50% at least of the companies that ask me to make a placement, I decline. And it's not really about the money for me. So this is something, of course, the first years I didn't really earn a lot with my podcast directly, but every podcast is also, I mean, it's like the same with you. It's also advertisement for your work. So if it helps people, you get approached and people ask, okay, I need a coach, can you do it? Or I need an investor or whatever.
Absolutely. It's funny because I've known you for a while, and we also share a lot of values. So the things you say seem so close to my perspective that it's very difficult for me to challenge it or to discuss with it. So, for example, I also don't sell, spots in my podcast, which I mean some podcasters invite guests and they are paid for it, which was surprising to me to find out. I never do this. Or I also really focus on the quality of the product. I think it's the most important is that people are very happy with it. So yeah. And what was the first step when you decided to start a business? What was it like? You were working as an engineer at Lufthansa, and you enjoyed working out, and you said, okay, let me bring that product to life. What was the product?
I mean, it was 10 years ago from now. So the online market was different then. So what I envisioned then is I thought, okay, I can see what people need and maybe put together a kind of a program people can download that helps them reach their fitness goals. And also I had to do some pivoting. So when I started, I thought, this is also because my company is called Marathon Fitness. I was running marathons and I did strength training. And that was always like for the past 10 years then, so I started with that around 2000, was a big problem because if you do strength training, you get bulky. And if you are heavy, you are a slow marathon runner. So I always had to figure out, how does that work? And nobody could tell me. So I thought, okay, there's obviously no solution out there. I have some experience in that. So it's certainly not myself. I'm not the only one who has that problem. I can help people achieve that. And so that's how I started. And I started like publishing content about that. And there was two things I did wrong, which is why for the first half year it didn't really work. So the first thing I did wrong is I didn't publish any pictures of myself because I thought this isn't about me. I want to help and I don't want to put myself in the middle, And this didn't really work. So I reached people when I started like putting pictures of myself online. And we talked about that in the beginning. This is not something that comes to me naturally. But it's obvious, people want to have a personal contact with somebody. It's the same if you work in sales. Of course, you represent your company, but people work together with people. And being online, there's a big distance. So you have to somehow bridge that gap. And that gap is like showing something about yourself, so showing kind of your personality. So this is the one thing. And the other thing is I was wrong. There's not a lot of people out there who run marathons and want to build muscle. So I underestimated that. So that wasn't working. But I had some traction, so I published about the things I found out about marathon running and how like energy systems work in the body and so on, and about strength training. And so I got some people who read my articles, and I asked them. And the one thing I also started right at the beginning is building up an email list. So people sign up to my email newsletter. So I asked the newsletter subscribers, okay, what is the problem I can help you with? So what's your basic fitness problem? On what they answered, most of them, like over 50%, is I want to lose fat. And I thought like there's so much content out there how to do that, and it's not really hard. I mean, losing fat isn't. If you ask yourself how does that work, it's really easy. So I thought, I mean, this is easy. I can do that. So I published content about that, and then I via the dialogue with the people who followed me, which are funnily a lot of like engineers in there. So that's also something. I think you attract basically people who are kind of like yourself. So I came up with a solution. Okay, they most people want to look good naked, and this was also something that motivated myself, because I like being kind of in shape is also something that was always pretty important for me and still is actually. So I thought, okay, this is also something I can help people with. And that's when it gained traction, when I like pivoted it, and actually I didn't answer the question, my audience answered it. And this is something I still try to listen to them and find out, okay, what is something that I get excited about on the one hand, and I can help those people with that follow me.
I can't help but ask some fitness-related questions. But before I do, just please tell me, how do you stay in touch with your audience? What are the top tools and methods that you use to make sure that you're on top? And for example, when you're designing a new product, we'll talk about your kind of products, hardware, physical products later. But I'm curious what kind of tools you're using to figure out and make the least mistakes.
I would say one of the basic things is still the blog format. So if I publish an article, getting into a discussion with the readers in the comments. There has been a change during the last years because people don't comment as much on blogs anymore. They go more to social media. So that's why I also focus on Instagram a lot now. So we have a lot of discussions there, and people give feedback via comments and DMs, for example, and of course also the email newsletter. So if I send out an email, then people respond normally. So this is also something where I like put my ear on the train tracks, and so that is actually a lot of channels where feedback. And also, I mean, I don't have a really big following on Twitter. It's a lot smaller, but I kind of like the platform. I can't really say why, but So because there's not a lot of comments coming in, but it's like one or two comments, and people ask me things on Twitter. Maybe it's also because it's not so much that I also listen to that platform. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So for me, definitely email is a very good tool. I also use it a lot, and I receive quite a lot of feedback that way. Sometimes in other social media. Regarding Twitter, I've been on Twitter for probably 12, 13 years. Still don't know how to use it. So actually, I'm now trying to get back to that and really understand. So I find people who are really great on Twitter and try to understand what's the DNA of their posts. And there are guys like Trunk Fan, for example, who's publishing just amazing content. And it's not only very high quality, but also embracing the kind of the thread method of publishing on Twitter, like Naval also does. And I really enjoy reading it, actually, because it's really short, but can be really full of data. So thank you for inspiring me to use Twitter more. Actually, I've been on that road since I started investing a little bit in NFTs, just to learn more about it. And Twitter is really the number one, I guess, platform for NFTs. So coming back to market research, feedback for the things that you have done, that's maybe something that is easier. But if you're about to design a new product, do you launch a kind of mock-up, or what do you do? So for example, let's stick to a certain product. Recently, you have this brand Dreinbleiber, right? I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, but generally I have a great hoodie that I love, and you know that I just ordered it without you doing anything. I just saw it and I thought it's just perfect. I want to have it. I'll ask you about the brand later a little bit. But also recently I received this beautiful towel, which is designed for working out in a gym. And I mean, it's a spectacular idea. You would say there is nothing special about a towel. You just need a towel when you want to lay and, do the bench press. But anyway, there are some ideas behind it. And I'm curious, what was the process of designing these products, except for your 30 years of working out in a gym that definitely count and add up to this product. But what was the process from the inception of the idea to the product that is now available online?
Yeah, that was actually we did a lot of iterations with a collection, the Dranbleiber collection. The first idea, well, let me go back a few steps beforehand. So you asked me about market research. So something I also do, and this is something I should have added earlier, is when you sign up for my newsletter, the first question I ask people is, what can I help you with? So I ask them to just respond to this email and say, okay, what's your biggest problem? So I get a lot of input via that, and this is always something I can look at. And there's also a bit later they are asked, okay, can you do this survey? And
sorry to interrupt. Is this exactly that question? How can I help you, or do you make it any more specific?
Yeah.
What is the exact question?
Yeah, it's good that you asked. So the exact question is, what's your biggest fitness related problem right now? Yeah. So that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Please respond. Yeah, and this is also something I would advise, or if somebody asks or thinks about creating a newsletter, this is something I think everybody should do. Also, probably bigger companies. I mean, why shouldn't they ask? If you, for example, produce a laundry detergent, ask people, okay, what's your biggest laundry-related problem right now? Maybe we can help you with that.
I steal it right now. I also have this newsletter. It's not 80,000 subscribers, but it's around 10,000 people who are interested in business. I will exactly add this question to this welcome email and see how this works. So I'll keep you posted afterwards. So thank you for this. Yeah, so that's the market survey, and I interrupted you about scanning. So you ask this question, and people give you these hints, and what happens next that ends up in being a towel?
So there's a few steps in between. So often people the thing people think they need isn't really what they need. So if people ask me, okay, what's the most effective exercise to lose fat? They're looking for a shortcut. So the thing I have to do is I have to answer that question, and within answering, I have to tell them there is no shortcut and still motivate them to put in all the work they have to do to lose fat,
Yeah, you're going against the general industry standard, which is basically promising overnight fat loss with all these weird products that can kind of almost kill you. And you are going against it by being honest, by doing it the right way. But doesn't it, turn people down and say, okay, I'm not interested, I don't want to do it, it's too complicated? How do you manage doing this thing that you turn this long-term process, which the majority of people don't like because they want to click and enjoy, they love this Instagram brain, having dopamine shots every millisecond, and turn it into a process that will really make them succeed?
I think the thing is that this is something I really believe in, is that moving, and like we humans, we are built to move. This is what our body is made for. And if somebody starts first when you begin, it's not really comfortable. But if you get into a habit of moving, the life, the quality of life is so much higher, and you get so much more work done, and you're a better person for your family and whatever. So this is something I truly believe in. And I think it's something also I can communicate to people. So if the first thing is like setting the right expectations, and this is probably uncomfortable, but I don't want to sell anything by scamming people and promising something they can't achieve. Then I don't want to do business. And I know there's some people who do that, and I would say also a lot of people who do really good. They have good values. So that's the first thing. And when I have the interest of people, I can tell them, okay, I know you just want to have one exercise and do it for one day, and then you have a six-pack. Let me tell you, that won't work. But I have a better message to tell you. It might be easier and a lot more fulfilling to change some habits in your life than you thought it would be, and I can show you a way. For example, if we talk about nutrition, a lot of people think they have to do a diet. So if they think about like losing fat, what they think about is they have to eat less. So they get into a feeling of something is lacking, something that gives me a quality of life is lacking. And I think it's totally possible to enjoy eating, to eat a lot also, if you make informed decisions and you think about what goal you want to achieve. And of course, that's actually exactly the same as in business. There's a saying, if you're failing to plan, you plan to fail. And it's the same within fitness. So if you don't do a planning about what you eat or make up your mind a bit about it beforehand, then it's harder to make changes. But this is something I can help people with and facilitate change in a way that people enjoy. And this is something I see as part of my mission. And you ask about the collection, which is, it's hoodies and shirts and sweatshirts that we produce. And we also have this towel now. And of course, you don't need clothes to get fit. You can also
definitely, if you have clothes on, you don't know if you look good naked.
Exactly.
Or other people don't. So you need to remove them in order to show how well you performed all the process that you have advised.
Yeah, and
that's
you
true.
could also do a naked workout. So it's
Absolutely.
not
But then you need even a better towel if you have no clothes on.
That's true. Yeah. So what we actually, our idea with the clothes was to give people something. So we say, I mean, the products are really high quality. So what we take care of is that the wool is like it's bio, it's really sustainably produced, and the workers that work to produce those clothes are well, so they get a good salary. Because I think if you wear something on your skin and you are on the way to improve your health, it's also something that you want to, it has to have good karma, if you would say it like that. And the other thing is that we see it as an anchor. So our community, we call ourselves Dranbleiber, which is like there's not really an English word for it, but the meaning of it is that you set a goal and you keep pursuing it. You're not getting off the wagon. You know,
like a crew of persistent people.
Exactly. So that this is our identity. And I think if you want to facilitate change, you have to first think about what you think about yourself. So then we are talking about the identity. So that's a lot of like psychology related things that I think about myself and that I incorporate in my work, which is, I think, the basis of every change. So this is actually the idea behind the clothes, is that you can, you say, I'm a Dranbleiber, this is my identity, and you can wear your identity on your skin. And this is what we sell. So it's not really about the clothes, but it's about what is connected, what's behind the clothes. So that's how we started in 2016, actually. And we started doing a crowdfunding campaign. So this is also a campaign where we were it ran for 4 weeks, and we had a lot of feedback during the campaign. A lot of people thought about, what's that? Your clothes, why are you doing that? They're so expensive and so on. And during the process, we could communicate what is our idea behind that, and if somebody, and it resonated with a lot of people, and it didn't resonate with other people, and that's fine. If you produce a product, it's not for everybody, but it's something we believe in, and I think it's a good tool for people who want to use it. And so we kept on doing that for the last, 6 years, and kept iterating. So the products we have now are really a lot better than the first ones. And also we have this unique towel, which is, I think there's no different gym towel like that, because it has a lot of features on it and so on. But if you buy the towel, for example, there's on the packaging of the towel, there's a QR code. And if you scan the QR code, you get a free, it's not really free because you bought it with the towel, but you get also a free kind of coaching session, which is a mental training session where you can work on your thoughts and the things that keep you pursuing your goals, which is, I think, more important than talking about diet. Is, why do you want to change? Why do you want to look good naked? What's the motivation behind that? And these are questions that are often nobody asks himself before saying, okay, it's the 1st of January, I want to eat better this year. And if I ask my clients, for example, one client I work with, he says, okay, I'm 55 now, and almost everybody of my family, my parents, they died around that age. And I don't want to do that. I love my life. I want to go out and hike with my wife and my children. And I want to do that for the next 10 or 15 years. And this is why I want you to help me. And that's his why. But a lot of other people have other intentions. And I think it's a good idea to ask yourself that question. And this is also something we sell with the product, So it's a really unique product. It's not a towel like something you buy on Amazon or so.
Yeah, totally. By the way, I just need to give you feedback that I missed this QR code. So I did notice. But apart from this, it's still a cool towel. And I really like that you mentioned the motivational part, because if we talk about motivation, sometimes we think like motivation is like go, go, go. And people think this is motivation. Like you just try harder, do it better. And this is motivation. This is not motivation. This is just I don't know, inspiration maybe, or I don't know, trying to keep the pace or trying to keep your eye on the ball. But the true motivation lies very deep inside. And of course, we've talked about it so many times before, but nobody listened to it apart from the two of us. But I would say absolutely, this is also what I feel is crucial when people come to me and they say, I want to grow my business. This is such a funny thing because people treat it as something obvious, just as they maybe think I want to look good naked, but there is this question, why do you want to grow your business? Do you want to have a more complex business? Do you want to have more problems, or do you want to have more money, or do you want to have more power, or do you want to fulfill some needs of more people, or what is the reasoning behind? Maybe, in fact, you don't want to have a bigger business, but you want to have the same business, but it will be better managed. Or maybe you don't know what you want, and the thing we need to work on is to figure out what you really want. And I think without these questions, there is no possible good outcome. Because I would say it's like climbing the wrong ladder. You just, you think this is the ladder, but then you spend 10 years, you're at the top of the ladder, you look around and you think, oh my God, I have this big company, I'm still unhappy. Oh my God, so what went wrong? So going back to basics, asking these questions is just so important. And I think, for body, it's even more important, because I can say you cannot have a business without a body, but you can have a body without a business. So I would say that the primal thing is the body, which you need to take care of. And just maybe switching for a moment from the business side of your work and the psychological side, what would be, I know that many people ask you this and ask every, let's say, health-related, fitness industry-related person this question, but I think there is never enough of saying some basic stuff, maybe for some people, which can be inspiring for others. And I would say, what are the 5 to 10 most important rules that you think lead to a longer life of a higher quality? I mean, from the perspective of general well-being.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying, somebody who has health, who's healthy, has 1,000 wishes, and somebody who's like in pain or unhealthy has just one. And so if we talked about motivation, and I think there's two parts of that. So the one thing is something you really want, so that's your goal, and the other thing is something you run away from, which is probably like health related things, is pain or whatever. And there are some people who, they just do something if they are in pain, and once the pain is away, they don't do anything again. And so that's always this cycle of, pain, like the back is aching, or I don't know, like somebody's getting fat, and that can also be like a pain, you're not satisfied with the way your body looks again, and so you're running away from that. And then once you reach your like ideal, or the pain goes away, then you don't do anything anymore. So I think you always need both, and it's actually the same in business. So if sometimes I would ask myself if like, for example, startups or big companies, if they want to grow, why do they want to do that? Is it about like making a certain amount of money or revenue? Why would you want that? And I think, so I don't know if that's true, but that's something I interpret from looking from outside, is a lot of people are just running away from, they are afraid to, for for example, lose the company or to have no money and so on. But if you look at like really rich people who have like millions, or maybe billions of money, they're still running away from having nothing, and I don't know if that makes somebody really happy. Yeah. And it's the same with the body, for example. If you can also overdo it, if we talk about muscle building, there's also or a lot of people who want to build more. So this is something I think it's worth to reflect on that. In the beginning, what do I really want? And makes me happy, makes a good feeling on the one hand. And on the other hand, what would happen if I don't change anything? What like look into the future, like 10 years in the future or so on. So that's one thing I would start with, like really finding out what's my why, what's my motivation, what are my fears. And everybody has that. I mean, the biggest fear is probably for most people the fear of death, which is also a big motivation to care about the health. And the other thing is then, okay, how do I pursue my goals? And at least if most of the people I talk to, they want to lose fat, especially when the days are getting longer and again it's warmer again. So a lot of people are not satisfied, and it's also part of our lifestyle that movement doesn't happen by chance. Healthy eating doesn't happen by chance. So if you leave it by chance, then you eat more or less unhealthy and don't move a lot. So that's where I would start and ask myself, okay, what can I improve in my nutrition, for example, which is an easy way for me, where I don't have to
spend 3 hours cooking.
Yeah, that's one thing. And, for example, I love chocolate. So if somebody tells me you are not allowed to eat chocolate anymore, then I say, okay, screw it. That's not what I want, So I would start with what can you add to your nutrition so that you have a healthier nutrition. And so there's two things I would add. One is protein, so like healthy protein sources. And the other thing is vegetables. So I would just add that, not thinking about, okay, I can't eat chocolate anymore, I can't have a glass of wine anymore, whatever. What can I add? What can I have more of? So this is, I would say, a game changer for a lot of people, because then they don't get into this mental cycle of I have to
control.
Yeah, and also these bad feelings of, I don't actually know the English word in German. For all German listeners, what I'm talking about is Mangelgefühle. I don't actually know the English word right now. But so you are in a better mood when you change that. And then if we talk about movement, also what are the things that you think in your worldview are easy for you? So what I like to ask, if most people think they have to do like 1 hour workout 3 times a week or nothing. So these all or nothing mentality is one of the biggest showstoppers, I would say, in fitness change. So why not think smaller? Can you do 1 push-up a day? So nobody can tell me he doesn't have time for that. But if you do 1 push-up a day versus 0 push-ups a day, it's an improvement of unlimited percent, So I would start small, change one small thing. It's like I'm certain you recommended that book, like what's it called? Atomic Habits. It's actually a great book about change, where you just change a small thing every day, and what you create is like small habits, like brushing your teeth, like doing 1 push-up a day, and that adds up, because then you have a habit of doing a small thing for your health and fitness every day, and that's the most valuable base you can build.
Za chwilę dalszy ciąg programu, a tymczasem, czy chcesz otrzymywać ode mnie bezpłatnie najciekawsze artykuły, podcasty i narzędzia, które pomogą Ci lepiej zarządzać firmą i własną karierą? Dołącz do 10 000 subskrybentów i zapisz się na gregalbrecht.io/klub, a w każdy piątek otrzymasz na maila garść inspiracji na weekend. Daj się pozytywnie zaskoczyć, a jak Ci się nie spodoba, to wypiszesz się jednym kliknięciem. Zapisz się na gregalbrecht.io/klub. Do zobaczenia w Twojej skrzynce. That's great. Thank you for this. It goes way further than the answer I expected, and that's fantastic. So I know that you work out every day, so that's not what some people would do or want to do. But what are other habits that you have that you think you do daily, and these are your small atomic habits, apart from, as I said, working out every day that you do, but other things that you can say? One I can tell right away, which is not related to fitness, and is that we do Duolingo every day.
Exactly.
But apart from Duolingo and working out, is there any other habit that started very small and now is kind of like a cornerstone of your mindset, or maybe brought a lot of value when you look backwards 10 years and today is something that really was a game changer when it added up?
Yeah, there's actually, I mean, it's also fitness related, but it's something that I didn't take care of for like 10 years or so, and that is sleeping. So the first 10 years I worked out, I slept like 4 or 5 hours a night. And the body doesn't have any any way to see if you didn't sleep enough. I mean, you are probably tired when you get up, but there is no system that notifies you that you are underslept. Exactly,
right?
And you can really, get used to it. And I was. So for the last few years, I would say 1 or 2 years, I mean, I started improving that earlier, but I made the best progress when I started measuring my sleep. So there's like great devices you can buy. There's, for example, a Withings sleep mat you can put under your mattress. And the only thing is, and you don't have to do anything. You can look at the measurements the next morning and you see how much hours you slept. And this is something I knew I had a problem with because I was stressed out big time. And once, was 7 years ago or so. And then I knew I had to improve it. So what worked best for me is to measure it and then do incremental improvements. So when I didn't sleep enough, I thought, okay, what can I do? And it changes even when you don't want it to change, only by looking at it. It's the same, before I built my own business, I was kind of a internal consultant at Lufthansa. And what I realized is that once you start measuring things and visualizing like key KPIs, things start improving only by people having this feedback. So I think this is also something really important in health, is when you just create KPIs and start looking at them.
Yeah.
And not
you have this reference point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a big plan on what to change or so. It happens automatically.
Yeah.
So
that's
so right now
that's spot on.
I on average I sleep like 7 hours, and that's perfect for me. So I have some nights where I don't sleep enough, but this is something I know you, Greg. You have different challenges right now with two
recent. But generally I have some quite good sleeping habits. What was the name of the mat again? Because I don't know the product.
So it's a French company called Withings. So they have this mat, for example, but I mean, we both use a Whoop band, which is also great, so there's a lot of ways. You can also, if you wear an Apple Watch at night, it can also,
I for example, now I use Garmin, and it's also pretty good for sleep. I mean, it's if we treat it not as a, very precise measurement, but as a reference point, it's pretty easy to figure out when you slept, when you were awake, and so on and so forth. That's cool. So coming back to Audible that you mentioned and the books, you said Atomic Habits. What are other books that you've read over the course of the last 10 years when you're an entrepreneur, which really influenced you and influenced your business?
Business books. That's a good question. I like that question. There's quite a lot of books I would say that influenced me, basically marketing related, because that was something I didn't really do a lot in my education. So we had some economics lectures, but not really a lot of marketing. And I would say if you do something on the internet, this is something you have to also know a lot about. And there's one book, or if it's a number of books that are about copywriting. I think copywriting is really important if you publish, for example, email newsletters, because you have to make good headlines so that the emails are opened. And also what is really important to fascinate people. And this is part of, like, you have to be able to do some wordsmithing. So it's important which words you use and so on. And there are a few books I would really recommend. Advertising books. So there's two about David Ogilvy. I think one is called Ogilvy on Advertising. I don't know if they have an audiobook because it's also visual stuff, but if you read the book, you can just flip the pages. There's a lot of older advertisements from, 20, 30 years ago, but they're still really good. For example, about the VW Beetle or so on. So this is a great book, I think, that everybody who's at least have to do something with marketing should read. And there's also a different book called The Boron Letters. It's about direct response marketing, which is also I think really important if somebody wants to do email marketing, by Gary Halbert. And that was actually the time of doing like real mail marketing, where you send out letters to people. But it's kind of the same way that email works. And I think, some people might know The Hustle, the free email newsletter, which is, I think, really good. They do a really good job doing marketing, like copywriting, using the right words. And it's really entertaining to read about business. And this is also something I think about a lot, because if you talk about nutrition and about fitness, it can also be a lot like really boring for some people. So I think these are two books that really influenced me.
Oh, that's cool. Actually, the guy I mentioned, Trung, he's from The Hustle. So the one I mentioned that is really great on Twitter. And then regarding copywriting, one book that I really remember well is Chip and Dan Heath's book Made to Stick. It was quite interesting to understand what are the rules that you can use in order to create a story that will stick, so it will last, and it's kind of something that people will really remember. So also recommended read.
It is actually, I read it too, and it's a really inspiring book.
So is there any truth about business or any myth about business that you think is out there and you either agree with it or you disagree strongly? Is there any truth maybe about making business or doing business that you think is really something that everybody should consider, or maybe there is a myth that irritates you and you want to oppose it?
There's something that comes to mind instantly, maybe because we talked about books right now. There's one book I also remember, also marketing related. It's called Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. And I think that book is like 100 years old or so. And it's still actual. I think he was the first marketer that talked about like doing marketing and creating KPIs so that you can measure if the things you do have an impact. And if we talk about internet marketing, then we look at numbers a lot. So you ask me about what's your reach, how many page views do you have and so on. So I can see how many eyes are on the things I do. And I think it's really easy to forget that you build a connection with people. So it's, I think, something that's, and this is also something I see in podcast advertisings, that like people look at, okay, what's your reach? You know, how old are those people? How many downloads do you have? Okay, this is the price we pay you. But I think what is really important is to think about that you reach individual people, and those people make up their minds about you. And I think like these unique connections are a lot more important than the bare numbers. And it's really important to keep that in mind. And this is also something I try to make myself aware of every day, because of course I also look at the numbers, but the numbers don't really match the success of your business a lot of the times, I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would say what I see in my business, which is not huge, I would say, or in terms of marketing, for example, and the reach that I have is not huge comparable to the biggest platforms. But I see that some things that really work is when you focus on the quality and you have your own honesty and this own voice. You may have this 1,000 true fans, and that's enough. There is this famous blog post, right? 1,000 true fans. And I totally believe that 1,000 true fans is something that is enough for you to be fulfilled, enough for you to learn and create something that works and live a good life. So that's something that I always aim at. So I also don't have the ambition to scale and build the biggest platform on earth. It's totally uninteresting to me, because it's very hard to combine quantity and quality. I think that's really difficult. That's why I mentioned in the beginning that it's probable that people that do things that seem very easy to eat and look good, like maybe some Instagram posts that are super cool and promise that you can lose fat in a day, they will have millions of subscribers, but maybe the impact will be 1,000 times lower than your impact when you are creating something of a value that has a little bit more, it's more difficult to enter and to consume and to act upon. But the people that connect with you, they are more successful than these millions following people who smile and have these beautiful pictures. And that's exactly what I feel. I don't want to put myself in there, and I'm struggling actually to post pictures of myself, and I know it affects the reach, but yet still I believe that there are other values that can be created through the content that I produce that make up for the lack of pictures, and that's good enough. So that's kind of a thing that seems as a choice everyone has to make. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I think what is important is what gives you energy, when you work. And this is what I wanted to say in the beginning, is that some people, it gives them energy when they make pictures and publish them and say, okay, I get a lot of good feedback for that. And depends on, sometimes it could be like informational, but it could also be like just entertainment. Also in the fitness, and that's fine, I don't know how that and how much that converts, but I'm in a different business, so
probably that converts to just to different products. Mm-hmm. So if you sell entertainment, if you promote entertainment, you sell entertainment. Yeah. So maybe it's easier to convert to OnlyFans than to workout routines. But So what is the thing that I was supposed to ask you, but I didn't? You feel that I asked about everything that is related to your business, starting from your work at Lufthansa through marathon fitness, improving step by step, and then getting into the, let's say, physical products and the brand and the community, then all the rules of the fitness. I'm summarizing this episode to give you some time to think. Oh, maybe you would like to reflect on physical events in the world of business, because we met at an event in Denver, Colorado. And that's how we connected 5 years ago, I guess. And it was an interesting event. What do you think is the value of events, and how do you think it's going to work in the post-COVID or forever COVID? I don't know what it's going to be, or kind of the new reality.
Yeah, I think, it's hard to substitute personal connections. It's also great to meet, like we are meeting right now via video, and it's 1,000. We are also, there's a lot of distance between Poland and Germany, unfortunately. Otherwise, we would meet in person more often. But I think, it's great that we grew so close together. And I don't think there's a substitute for real in-person meetings, because the conference we met at, it's once a year, and I was there every year since then, because every year after 3 days, exchanging thoughts with other business builders always inspired me in a way I couldn't imagine beforehand, that I take energy out of that for the next 12 months and more than that. And I don't know how this situation is in other countries right now. But at least here in Hamburg, the restaurants are open. So we met actually yesterday evening with some people, and I'm pretty sure that in the summer meetings will be possible again. I hope that the conference will take place this year. If not this year, then next year. And I think that will be, at least I think that will be the way it was before.
Yeah, that's cool. So big shout outs to Adam Bornstein and the team at 212 conference. It was really a fantastic experience. And that's one thing that that is so true, and I really didn't think about it, is that probably if we haven't met in person, even if we connected otherwise, which is very unlikely, very highly unlikely because of the differences and all the stuff that is in between. So without that, even if we connected over the internet, we would never develop a connection that we have if the first interaction wasn't in person in that setting.
Exactly. And it's always different to meet in person than meet via Zoom or whatever. It's always different. And there's a lot of information missing. And it's more intense in person. I think there's no substitute for it. And I say that although I have a 100% virtual business, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, that's true. So in a way, you're using the remote, 100% remote, but at the same time, you enjoy interacting with some selected people.
Yeah, and this is also something I have to add, because Greg, I think that's the same way. We would never have developed that connection. We are talking to each other really regularly, exchanging ideas, thoughts, coaching each other, and this is something that developed in real life.
Yeah, totally. And I'm really grateful for this. And I think one more thing about this conference, it actually sparked and ignited the launch of my podcast. I guess when we met, I'm not sure, I would have to look back, but probably I either just started podcasting or I was about to, because I don't remember when exactly I started. That's maybe a shame, but I think 4 or 5 years ago. And I guess when we first met, there was no Greg Albrecht podcast, and experiences within this event also ignited the launch of this product. And actually, our conversations led to me recording a podcast in English. So thank you for this, man. It's really cool, and I really enjoy it.
Me too. Yeah, it's an honor to talk to you in this way for me.
Big pleasure. So just jumping for a second in the end to Jendrik. So leaving the Mark Maslow mask on the table and asking Jendrik, what are the things that you really enjoy or that you enjoy doing that are not related to workout and business? Is there anything like this, or you're just 100% focused on these two areas and you just decide not to do anything else?
Yeah, I mean, there was actually workout related. So what I really like is going out for a hike, but you can like put that into workout. So there's definitely something. So what not so many people know about me is that before I found out, when I look back at my teenage years, I was kind of the opposite of a sporty person. There was no kind of workout that was fun for me, and I spent most of my time playing computer games. And I still have that love for computer games in me. So the last purchase I did like last year is like 1 meter next to me, there's a PlayStation 5. And I have a huge number of great games waiting for me to be played. I don't take so much time to do that right now, but maybe once every 2 weeks I play for half an hour a game, and this is something I really enjoy. And I also enjoy, and this is something where I can really relax my mind, is I listen to a German podcast about old computer games, actually. And these are two journalists that are about my age. Well, actually, one of them is 10 years older. And they do so good research and producing a show about those games I played when I was a teenager that, for the one hand, is really interesting and fascinating, at least for me. And the other thing is that all those good feelings from my teenage years, where I didn't have any responsibility and all those things, they come up and I just feel happy. So this is something, and actually the show is for everybody that can speak German. I really recommend it. It's called Stay Forever. So which games do you liked the most as a kid? I liked these old LucasArts and Lucasfilm Games adventures. Probably the most fascinating story for me was a game called Loom, which is really beautiful story about like magic. And it's a really easy game, but the story is so good. And the music is from Tchaikovsky's Swan's Lake. So I also like that kind of music. And that's probably a second thing I would add is, good music. I don't have a special kind of music I like if it's well done. I also love those classical musics, but I also listen to rock music and some kind of heavy metal. So it's different things. Yeah. Great. There are so many things I would like to ask you, but I don't want to consume too much of your precious time, which I know is always very scarce resource, and it's something that you really try to protect successfully, which I admire. So, Jendrik, I'm so happy to have this podcast with you. I hope, and I'm sure at the same time, that the listeners will have enjoyed it as much as I did, or as much as I have, actually. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for coming and finding time to record this conversation. Thanks a lot, Greg. And thank you for everybody listening until now. I hope I could give some interesting information here. Thank you. Jendrik Schmidt, a.k.a. Mark Maslow. Thank you very much. Za chwilę dalszy ciąg programu, a tymczasem, czy chcesz otrzymywać ode mnie bezpłatnie najciekawsze artykuły, podcasty i narzędzia, które pomogą Ci lepiej zarządzać firmą i własną karierą? Dołącz do 10 000 subskrybentów i zapisz się na gregalbrecht.io/klub, a w każdy piątek otrzymasz na maila garść inspiracji na weekend.
Daj się pozytywnie zaskoczyć, a jak Ci się nie spodoba, to wypiszesz się jednym kliknięciem. Zapisz się na gregalbrecht.io/klub. Do zobaczenia w Twojej skrzynce.